Hi, so here's another one in the series on the 60-degree diamonds. I thought we'd have a little look at how we might make some 9-patch diamonds. So previously we've cut out just some plain ones in different sizes. This one I've used a 6.5-inch strip. This is a 4-patch and I've used 4 different colours in my 4-patch there, and again I've used it so that they were 3.5 inches wide cut, so that will also match to go with this one of a 6.5-inch strip fabric. And so this time I thought I'd show you how to use some 2.5-inch strips yet again. We love our 2.5-inch strips, to make a 9-patch that will also fit in with those, so that we can mix and match a little bit. So I'll just pop this one up here as well, so that you can see that they're all going to work together. And isn't that kind of fun? Because quite often we can use up some leftovers for some of these things. They don't all have to be beautifully matched. They could in fact be quite random. I've used similar colours but 9 different fabrics, so each strip in there is a different fabric, so you can make them quite scrappy within a colourway, or you could also make them quite scrappy in a multi-colourway. So I'm just going to go through the process with you to make the 9 patches. So I've got my strips. So this time we want to join together 3 strips, and I'm going to make a matching one like this. So I'm just using 2 colours, but it would be just the same if I was making these ones. I've just joined together 3 sets of different strips. So I've got 9 different fabrics joined in groups of 3 for that one. So I've got my green, blue, green, and then the other side you need to have a blue, green, blue. So if you think about a regular 9-patch, you usually have 2 rows that are the same and one is opposite. So that's basically the same concept. We're just going to cut them a little bit differently. So this time I'm going to lay them together and cut them both together. So I've got my 2 strips that now measure 6.5 inches wide, because I want it to match with my plain ones and my 4 patches and all those sorts of things. So I'm just lining things up so that they're fairly straight on the board. So everything's lined up. I'm using my 60-degree line here on my ruler, so I'm just going to position that 60-degree line along the bottom edge there, but I've got the 2 layered together, so make sure that the edges are sitting all nicely together, and it works quite nicely. And this way, if you do it this way, you can cut out 2 blocks pretty much at the same time, or more by going further along the strip, of course. So 60-degree line along the bottom edge, cut up there. So most of this I've covered in the previous videos, but I just thought I'd go through it again because there's always something different. So this time I'm turning that around. So by using the two groupings together and cutting them together, we need to cut 2 of this one. So if we actually cut 3 slices, we'll have enough for 2 blocks, because we need to have that many. So because we're working with a 2.5-inch strip that we're going to do 3 of, we need to cut the strips 2.5 inches wide. So I've lined that up on my board with that 60-degree line. I've got it lined up straight here, so I know everything is sitting nice and straight. Now I'm going to line up my 2.5-inch line on the ruler here with the cut edge of the fabric, so that that sits over 2.5 inches, and I'm going to cut a slice there. Now, without moving anything except the piece I've just cut, everything is going to sit nice and straight. I can line up the 2.5-inch again, and I can line up the 2.5-inch again. So we need the 3 slices, as I said, to create 2 blocks, 2 reverse colour blocks. So not 2 identical, but 2 very similar. So I've got my 3 slices of 2. So you can see that if I use those 3, I get the darker, more dominant colour, and then on this one I've got the green, because I've ended up with 2 of those and 1 of those. How fun is that? So the same thing applies. If you wanted them all to be the same and you wanted them all to have the darker points, then you would need to cut more of these ones, twice as many as these ones. If you're happy to have alternating like that, then you just can cut the same amount in pairs like that. So I'll just go ahead and I'll just make one of these blocks up, just to make sure you are familiar with how that goes. So I'm just lining up, because they're all cut on an angle, we need to overlap at the ends here, so that where they intersect is 1/4 inch in from the edge for sewing. And that should mean that all of these, where they overlap here, should also overlap at 1/4 inch or intersect at 1/4 inch in from the edge, so that we get a nice point meeting in there. It's kind of fun to make all the different ones so that you can mix and match around a little bit, and later on in the series we'll be doing a couple of different things with these diamonds. So I'm just making sure that where possible everything's lining up here. You could put a couple of pins in if you wanted to, or clips. So again, that should intersect at 1/4 inch on the where the points overlap there. Oops, wrong button. Oh, and again. So those points are looking pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with those. But I've got one more strip to go on here, so I'm going to pop that on there now. Again, just lining up. And again, you could chain piece these if you had several to do. I'm just going to make the one block up this time. So we're intersecting 1/4 inch here where the points overlap, and at each seam there. So just be aware though that one thing I haven't really mentioned is that because we're cutting on an angle, some of our edges may be a little bit stretchy because they're on not even a true bias, but they're not on the straight of the grain of the fabric. So things can stretch a little bit. So just be careful how you handle your fabric. Some of it will be straight and some of it will not. But that's looking pretty good. I'm going to press that now. I'm actually still going to press the seams open. I find that with all these different angles and things, that I get a better result if everything's pressed open. Well, not everything, but this joining line. I did press my other seams when I joined my strips so that they went all towards the blue fabric in this case, so that they're not too bulky when you join up, so that you can get that slightly nestled effect even though it's on a bit of an angle. So the seams are going in opposite directions where they meet. So pretty pleased with that in general. And then, so I've got another one of those up there now, and I think that's looking pretty good. So we're going to have a little bit of fun. There's some more videos to come in this series to show you a few things you might do with some of these blocks. So I've got some other of the plain diamonds already cut here so that we can pop things in between if we choose to. It's going to be just a lot of fun. I'm using just 6 different colours because I like the colours. Who knows what's going to be made out of them. But as I said, there's going to be some more videos in the series showing you other things that you can do with these 60-degree diamonds. So that's it for a 9 patch. That one measures 6.5 inches, matching these other pieces. You can make them any size you like as long as you remember when you're cutting that you're slicing the size of your strip. So if it's a plain one, it's the full width. If it's just a 4 patch, it's that half width of 3.5 in this case. On these ones you're slicing at 2.5 inches to get your slices to then join back together again. And you could go on making huge things, you could make smaller things. It's all going to work. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.